Everyone, welcome back to our Spring into 2021 series. This is kicking off the new Echo Means Business Pro Networking series that has launched on our newly redesigned website. Got some big things coming up in the next couple of months, a lot of new features on Echo Means Business, a loyalty program. We got some awesome rewards. We have pro resources, the pro networking, which is what we're doing here, as well as pro workshops that are going to be coming in the near future as well. So lots of new things happening on the site, including a new forum, commenting. You can start following each other now, all kinds of great stuff. So be sure, if you haven't subscribed already, it's free subscription. All you got to do is put in your email address over on echomeansbusiness.com, or it's even easier if you just go download our app. You can get that on the Google Play Store or, of course, on Apple's iTunes. So go for it, and we'll send you an alert, obviously, when all the new features are going to go live. But today, the fourth video in our fourth networking session, in our series here live on YouTube is hiring. So we've already talked about getting your business ready. What is all the legalities? What's all the paperwork you need? What's all the marketing you need to do? We talked about marketing. We also talked about knowing your worth. What are you going to price? That was a great session last week. Thanks to all who participated, either in the audience and on our panel. We're going to have a lot of follow-ups from that in upcoming networking sessions. Today, the final one in this series is hiring students, full-timers, subcontractors, when and how. So welcome to our panels. We got Scott from Landscapes by Acme, Mr. Haircut, Michael Bedell, welcome, Nicole, as well as Josh Curavan. Thanks, guys, for being our guests on this week's networking session. So I'm going to kick it off, and then I'll leave it to you guys to educate. And for those of you listening, feel free to ask your questions. I will be popping them up on screen as well throughout the night. The first one, I think, is a clarifying question. We need to talk a little bit about the differences between a solo guy, solopreneur, or woman, hiring a summer help, just somebody to help them out over the course of, like during mulching season or during fall cleanups or spring cleanups, versus hiring specifically for growth, knowing that you want to take on another 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever number of clients, or you want to go into the commercial side of the business, or maybe you're going to get an HOA, you know what I mean? And you're going to have a lot of properties, and so you need some permanent staff. So I'll start with Scott, because you're right next to me on screen, I think. At least you are on mine. You've had experiences, I think, at both. What is the difference in hiring for both of those scenarios?
There's a lot to it. At first I had to hire somebody within the first couple of years. And then, as we kept growing, we did hire and kept hiring. So, there's a lot to it. When you first start out, you're like, I need to get that extra guy and help out, because you're just slammed with everything, and you want to just be able to keep up with it and not get so far behind. So you kind of miss right off the bat of what you're trying to find that perfect person for you. So you kind of just find somebody that, like a friend. That's what I kind of did, was look for a friend that was kind of looking for some kind of work. So that kind of helped out for a while, but then you kind of learn that you need that person that's going to be there long-term, and they have all the right qualities that you want, that comes with your business. And that, you start to learn more and more about that. And, if you find out what you need. A lot of us that have employees and continuously hire employees know what they want in their business. They know what kind of skills they want right away. They know what kind of experience they want, if they want experience. Right now, we kind of look for somebody that's got experience and, that's been in the business a couple years, knows all the equipment, willing to learn, willing to keep pursuing into that business, instead of somebody that, just not knowing what they're doing, but so there's a lot there. I know a lot of us here all probably have hired employees before. or subcontractors. It's all kind of the same, but you're always looking for that same thing. I mean, I know Mike, he's right next door to me on the screen up at the top. I know he's hired employees before too. What's your take on it, Mike?
Well, it's been a journey over the years. So when I first started, it wasn't that calculated. It was like I had jobs and I played a band, so it was bandmates and friends that like, hey, you want to come spread some mulch on Saturday? And so it started off informally, and I think that's kind of how it starts for a lot of us, right? You start with somebody that you know or a friend that wants to make some money. And it's at that point that you kind of got to figure out where you're going with it. And if this is always just going to be a side hustle for you, or you don't have aspirations to turn this into some mega business, then maybe that's kind of where it stays. Versus you've got to kind of figure out where you're going. And if you want to scale things, which I know that Josh and I have talked to, he's done that. I've done that at a point in time. You at that point are looking for more talented individuals, and it gets even to like what you were just saying, Scott, where you at this point in your business, you're not maybe looking to do as much training. You're looking to hire people that come with some skills, but you're anticipating on probably paying a higher rate for those skills. So, Josh, why don't you tell people a little bit about your journey with this?
Started out similar to you guys, where there was no mission statement in place, so it was more or less hiring buddies and friends and trying to get things done, and ventured out into subcontracting. Eventually, when we got a mission statement put together, and we realized what we wanted to do, the direction we wanted to go, and that's changed almost quarterly for the past few years as far as how we want to adjust. But yeah, it takes time. I think everybody knows there's a labor pool shortage and throughout the trade industries, and it is tough to find help. It is tough to find qualified help. But the one thing I've learned throughout that is it's also how you advertise to people, your core values as a company. Not every single person's looking to make a golden ticket working as a landscaper, but it's also how you treat them. I'll get into that later. I don't want to take up all the time on this, but yeah, we have people we've hired, we fired, we have people that haven't showed up, people that have disappeared on the job. But yeah, Nicole.
I think we lost Nicole. Oh no, she's there.
I didn't hear the question exactly. Sorry, had to cut out there. We're talking about subcontractors, at least on my end. So I think it's totally different than at least the lawn care industry, but I think we deal with kind of the same type of people, which are people that are okay, just kind of maybe making possibly minimum wage or what have you. At least when I'm going on to properties, I'm like, I want to get a subcontractor that is able to possibly pull weeds. So I'll go put them on that particular, area, or they're able to rake behind me and they might be paid a little bit more because they're working a little harder, or they're wheeling, the wheelbarrows after I fill them, so I'm right with them. But again, I subcontract out. I just recently, because of COVID and dealing with not being able to find any helpers, I just got in contact with, it was kind of a hiring, company here in town to where I could go ahead and hire employees at this point. So it's frustrating. I think we all deal with it. Unfortunately, it's put me in a bind many, many times. So when I go and bid a property, if I'm going to go trim through, or if I'm going to lay 8 pallets of sod, I better understand that if my guys don't show up, I have to do it. And it's frustrating. But what happens when my guys don't show up because they're subcontractors, then I probably am not going to work them for about 2 weeks. They may be wanting money after that. I think that,
That's interesting. At least with subcontractors, you can, if you got more than one, you can pit them against each other. You really can't do that with employees, right? Because they're going to be expecting some kind of regular hours, and and a commitment. So that's actually an interesting strategy. Why don't we move forward on that? The idea of subcontractors. We were talking about this briefly before this call started. Does it make more sense in some cases to look for subcontractors that can maybe take on some small jobs for you, or potentially even like a full season partnership with a local one as opposed to hiring employees?
Yeah, I think it's something that, like Nicole touched on with COVID, things have certainly got more interesting in some markets. I mean, in my market, not only were we shut down for a period of time, but it really did change the labor pool dynamic kind of overnight. And, for better or for worse, you had people that would be coming to work that now aren't for a reason, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, legitimate or not. It's not really for me to decide. At the end of the day, they're not showing up to your job, and what are you going to do about it, right? How are you going to react to it? So what are those opportunities that you have to mitigate the situation if you can't find staff? Is working with other contractors to kind of divide and conquer, or try and meet the end goal, pool your resources. And it's a lot like Josh was saying with having a mission statement. You can't necessarily give a mission statement to subcontractors, but you definitely have to set parameters and define the relationship in a contract. And whether you're good buddies or not, the only way it's really going to work is if everyone really understands what they're working for and working towards. Have any of you guys, besides Nicole, found that to kind of be a viable game plan to help get through the past year?
We had done it in a very long time ago when at one point we got really big, and we did have subcontractors for us for snow removal. And you gotta let them know exactly like what you said, Mike. You gotta let them know exactly how you want it done, how to do it, and just keep on them. And that's how we had to do it. We do subcontracting now for a couple other companies in town. So they've kind of told us how they wanted stuff done. And then we kind of explained what we do and how we provide the services for them. And you gotta be flexible sometimes, and go with them. Same way if you're hiring a subcontractor, hopefully they're going to be flexible with you and know exactly what you want done and the way you want it done, and make sure it's done that way. Because it is your money that you're bringing in for that subcontractor, or they're bringing in for you, and you want to be able to pay them and make sure that you keep your customer. If you're having them do irrigation or anything else, you want to keep that customer right there with you at all times and make sure that they're happy and totally satisfied. And I think every time I do subcontract work for people, I got to make sure that we're doing it top notch, and that they're going to keep their customer. We're going to keep our customers when somebody does subcontract work for us. So that's the best way to do it. I don't know if Josh does. Josh, do you hire any subcontractors for anything?
Yeah. So we subcontract out irrigation, installation, and repair now. Fertilizer, carpentry, gas line. We'll dig for site work, but we won't. Plumbers and electricians we hire out, and it's kind of similar but not to when you're giving like your core values to a employee. We have a code of conduct when you show up on the property that it's our job site. You're working through us. You represent Caribbean Green Company, and you have to respect that. We haven't had any issues with that. The reason that we subcontract out is we don't have the tools and resources, and sometimes the knowledge to complete these jobs. Everybody thinks that, or a lot of people think that, I can save some money and get a higher profit margin on the job. But if something goes wrong and you don't know how to fix it, or you just up in air and you don't know how to go get parts or what to do, who to go to, you're in trouble. Lessons learned firsthand, trying to do carpentry where we do stairs and replace siding, and I didn't have the right tools, and it looks like a kid's cheat sheet on a Crayola crown. But yeah, we use subcontractors in the same sense that we'd have employees, but we also have jobs where if they're out of scope, we will just hand them off to the companies directly. We won't have anything to do with it. We'll just, here's Bedell that can do your irrigation, or Nicole that can do your garden beds, and we just force it right through. It's not worth facilitating and dealing with the paperwork unless the job has meat on the bones for us.
Can we talk about quality control? Because I pulled out a couple of points from what you guys have been talking about. Nicole, is there an improvement in quality control when you are working with subcontractors as opposed to having your own employees part-time or otherwise, or is it the other way?
I think with subcontractors, as far as pulling weeds or raking behind me or loading my trailer or what have you, there's a very fine line between employee and a subcontractor. And so if they don't know how to do it, then I can't really direct traffic in that sense. If it's my sprinkler guy or the chemical guy and I'm subbing him out, obviously they're going to have their license. It's pretty cut and dry there. I did see somebody say something about hiring a temp agency, which is what I just did. I mean, earlier this week, I just was frustrated going, are you really going to walk off in the middle of a sod job and put me in a bind here? And it happens. It happens all the time. I understand that a lot of these guys, subs or what have you, they struggle with some things, and I'm okay with putting up with it for, a year or what have you, off and on. But I don't have a lot of quality control in saying, well, you missed 500 weeds, you better go back and do it. I'm not going to pay you, because I have to pay him. I have to say whether or not you knew it was a weed or whatever. I have to hold up my end of the bargain, but I can't direct traffic from a subcontractor, because then they're an employee of mine.
How often does it happen? I know that when we did our spring social media lounge event in place of the GIE, we did a digital one, and I know that Ken and Wayne at Echo, as well as all the other guests we had from Xmark and all the rest of them, they were all talking about how difficult it is to get employees in this industry. It's probably the most difficult thing. It has been for years, and it looks like it's going to be this year as well. Knowing that it's so difficult, I got two questions for all of you. Number one, how often do people actually walk off a job? I'm hearing that more and more and more. You got somebody who starts and 3 days later they're gone. And if so, how do you find somebody? How do you qualify the people you're going to happen? Is there a way to do that? Tips.
I would say, it is really hard to hire people. It's hard to find them, and especially the last couple of years, it's definitely been hard to do that. We've looked at many different ways. I've done Facebook ads. I've done Craigslist ads. I put ads in the paper a long time ago. We've even, gone to high schools and colleges, even vocational schools that hire, and we've hired people from there before. And it's just, you gotta go through the whole process of putting down what your expectations are for that position that you're looking for. Like Nicole hired just from a temp agency. We've done that before, and we've had people walk off the job literally in the middle of a job. And it's frustrating when you're in the middle of a job and that guy's like, I don't think this is for me. I just called a ride and he's pulling up in 5 minutes and I'm out of here. And you're like, okay, well, I got to call the temp agency. Or if it's someone you hired, you're like, okay, now what do I do? I got to finish out the day. And that's what you do, is you just keep rolling, and then you got to keep out there always trying to hire people. And that's one thing that we're always trying to do, is just, you got to keep trying to hire and just keep rolling with it day by day and week by week. And, I've had as much as 30 guys in 1 year I've gone through, and it makes you really think about what qualifications you really want in that person when you're going to hire them. And you say, this is what I want. And when you bring them in, you talk to them, you sit them down, you ask a bunch more questions like, what's your interest? What brings you to me, and what makes you want to do this job for me? And that's what I'm always asking everybody I hire is, because it definitely lets me know where I want to go and, from the future. Cause I've had guys work as little as 2 days and guys that have worked years before they've, said, I ain't going to do this no more. But when it's a couple days, it's definitely nerve wracking. I know Mike's probably gone through a lot of this too. So what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, it's been a ride over the years. Thankfully it's been a little bit since anybody actually walked off a job, but it definitely has happened. So when you were saying that, I was thinking of a time where I happened to be on the job site and I was in the backyard looking at some stuff, and I walked into the front yard and I see one of my guys getting in a car, and I'm like, what's going on? And I say to one of the other employees, I'm like, oh, where's he going? He goes, he says he's out of here. And I see him pull away, and I go, I guess he's out of here, and that was his last day. So thankfully it's been a minute for that. But this past year, it's oddly enough, I'd say our two biggest ways of recruiting have been it's kind of the same way we get new clients. It's thankfully been referrals, people who know that we're looking for someone and then thinks we might be a good fit for where they're at in life and where they're headed or whatever their given situation is. And, we've had some opportunities come of that. And then I've thrown the Hail Mary pass on Facebook a couple times. And it's worked okay in terms of getting people to get us through a job or a certain situation. I can't say that I've had any real home run employee stories from hiring on Facebook, but that's with the asterisk of this whole COVID hiring weird people stay at home situation from the past year. So that very well might play into that, but those are my two most recent kind of go-tos to acquiring people. We'll probably rinse, lather, repeat with that this spring as we look to bring on a couple new people. What about you, Josh?
I've had a handful of people walk off jobs on me, and we've done site work in the past, and sometimes I'm bad at saying no to some of these jobs because there's meat on the bones. But I've had guys look me dead in the eye and just go, this is too hard. I can't do it, and just disappear. I've left and come back, and my foreman tells me he just walked off, handed me the pickaxe and said, see you later. But you gotta, it's hard work at the end of the day, whether you're cutting lawns in 90-degree weather or you're building walls and even picking weeds. It's tedious work, and there isn't a huge reward for it when you're an employee. But yeah, again, it's qualifying an employee. It's important, but anybody can bullshit on an application. Everybody's done it. You kind of embellish I've done it myself in the past. You embellish your resume a little bit to make yourself look better. We try to be as straightforward with guys as possible, where we're bringing as much equipment and reinforcement as we possibly can to make your life easier. Once we get people in the door, we're straightforward with how hard the job is, because it is hard and it is backbreaking. It's gruesome. You're stung, you're bitten, you get sunburn, poison ivy, you get cut, you get bruised. But I think a big thing that guys do wrong, and this is just my opinion, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the verbiage I've seen when guys are hiring, when they'll go, must be able to lift 100 pounds, work in 90-degree heat, 7 days a week, 80 hours a week. Like, you got to show up or you're fired. You got to have your own transportation. I wouldn't respond to you either. But if you tell guys work-life quality, work-life balance, we offer semi benefits. We don't offer health insurance and dental, but we can do this for you. We can pay for a gym membership. We can help you out with bonuses. We can give you a little spiff here. You want to attract people. You don't want to push them away off the bat. And then once they get in the door, you tell them the truth about it. Someone mentioned on here asking about where we go to look for employees, and someone said Craigslist, and that's a big no-no for me. I don't even buy equipment off Craigslist anymore, never mind trying to hire a person. But again, it's all about looking at the red flags. Indeed's a big one. You will pay for it. But I feel with Indeed, the reason when you go that way is if a person's going to take the time to fill out a resume and write you a little letter about why they would be good for your company and your outfit, they're going to take the inquiry a little bit more serious than they would on, responding to Bob's Lawns on Craigslist.
Do you think that because the cost or the barrier is low to getting into this industry, whether you're starting a business or just working in it, that you're going to get just, okay, that's an easy job to get. I need a job. I need a buck. And again, I go back to, how do you qualify? Like, just telling them, hey, this is hard. Are you up for it? They're going to say whatever they're going to say because they need a job.
Well, a lot of guys will say yes, yes, yes. I've had guys that were ripped, that can pick up boulders, and then once they get halfway through the days, those are the guys that usually end up walking out, and the guys with the beer bellies are like, whatever, see you later. It's giving people, I think it's being completely transparent and letting people know how you're going to feel. I think everybody can agree there's that 2-week mark when you start up. You get that 2 weeks where you get the crap beat out of your body, you feel like shit, and after you get through that, you're like Thor. You can run through with no problem. I just, again, it's being as transparent as possible. Everybody wants the quick buck, but it's also making sure they know what they're doing, having systems laid out so each employee knows what they're doing, so they're not just doing busy work, is huge too, because guys will just sit there and do something repetitively, like moving boulders or trying to pick the weeds when they should be doing something else, and there's no leadership, there's no systems, and guys just get dizzy and they work themselves into a drought, into heat stroke.
Are there particular previous jobs that, would, I guess, loan themselves well, or make it easier to say, yeah, this guy's worked in this industry before, or this type of a job, so he's more likely? Like, if you're going to get a guy off of an oil field, or if you're going to get somebody who was in retail for the last 5 years, you know what I mean? Like, have you guys had any experience that way? Is there a pattern in terms of somebody who will, cut it in this work, has also cut it in these other types of industries?
For me, it's have they done manual labor before? There's all different kind of starter opportunities and high school jobs that we have, and some people answer the phone at a front desk, or work inside in a library, and then other people get a job at the Parks and Rec department, right? Or work in their dad's or uncle's warehouse, schlepping boxes all the time. And I found that the people that, the outdoors type jobs are preference, in terms of past experience, just because they're maybe going to be a little bit more immune to the elements. But if they've worked some type of warehousing job for a while, they're used to kind of the idea of repetitive tasks. They're going to be asked to do the same thing over and over again. And the other thing that I look for is, like, if they're old enough, have they worked anywhere for a period of time more than like a month or two, or they had a new job every couple months, and you're wondering how many did they even leave off this resume or job application. So for me, it's just trying to find do they maybe have a little bit of oomph already in them that we don't have to instill, and so that it's more getting them fine-tuned to what we're doing and how we do things around here, and not trying to also just instill some like work ethic and ability to do some back-breaking work. What about you, Scott? You found that to be kind of true?
Yeah. I mean, I've, some of these people will, put, like Josh said, they'll put whatever they want on that resume, but it's the way they show up, the way they handle themselves in the interview, I think kind of puts them at, what they are doing. Even like what you said, I've had guys that come in and they worked, say, this one place for 2 weeks, and then worked at this warehouse for 2 weeks, and you're like, well, it's going to get hot this summer. Do you think you can last more than 2-3 weeks? And, oh, yeah, I can handle it. But, right away, looking at the resume, that by what, they're saying, how many jobs they've had in the last 2 years, you're like, wait a minute, I don't know if you're going to be able to handle that, So you kind of, you kind of know how they're handling themselves right off the bat. I mean, I know like Josh said, of, you know, you got to kind of tell them what you provide for them, and then tell them also, you know, the nitty gritty. I mean, I always tell them the same thing. I say, hey, this is what's going on. You know, gym memberships. I mean, Josh, if you're giving gym memberships out, I'm coming to you. I mean, Tino said he was offering tacos. I mean, food's always a good thing, you know. Tino, I mean, I like free tacos. So if you're coming, you know, you're going to offer free tacos, I mean, I might have to move down by you. So, I mean, food's always good. You know, a lot of people do like that, to have a meal or have some kind of, you know, incentive to be in to work for a company. And, you know, that having a good incentive, you know, like medical and all that stuff, that's a good plus. You'll pick up some good people, but, you know, you'll still have them other people that are just there for that job, you know. So, I mean, it's a lot there. So what do you say, Josh?
I have like 10 directions I want to go on this entire segment, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to kind of like rapid fire and go off here. So again, like I'm going to go back to like it's a hard job in any aspect of what you're doing outside in the lawn and landscape industry. It is hard when you're offering $12, $13, $14 an hour. Guys aren't going to last in the heat. And yes, money isn't what it's all about. But if someone comes up to you and says, hey, I'm going to give you $15 an hour to come pull weeds or to come lay pavers, and it sounds great for like the first 2 weeks when it's spring, it's 70, you're dancing along, doing whatever. And then all of a sudden the heat comes, you're going to go, hey, I can go to the mall and make $2 less an hour and be in the AC and not have to deal with all the bull crap. So the idea behind the gym membership isn't necessarily to get guys to go to the gym. It's just the illusion of something extra. It's like if you're to the size where you can't afford to offer health insurance, you can have your guys go on the Health Connector. And if it's going to cost a guy $300 a month for his insurance, give him that $300 a month if he's worth it. If he's been with you. These are little benefits that guys see value in, that they want to stay here. I think of myself when I was employee and how much effort I put into the jobs I had and what I wanted and what I didn't get. And I kind of took that and merged that around my core values of my company. And there's give and take. We're not giving memberships and health insurance spiffs to everybody. You have to earn it and show that you're going to put in the effort for the company. But we really got to do is professionalize how we look for people. I'm a big believer in attitude reflects leadership. And, you know, when you got guys on Facebook groups bashing how there's crackheads coming to work for Newports and $5 bonuses and stuff, I think that's extremely unprofessional, because it's not just business owners in these groups. It's also employees. And I don't like that. I don't want to associate my business with the business owner that talks like that about people in general. So I know that was completely off record, but I want to throw that in there.
No, that's okay. I think, but let's there's a few things that came out of that. Let's talk about incentives. I think that's a great idea, obviously, in any business. Offering some type of incentive is good. I know my staff love their free lunch Thursdays. It's why I think a few of them probably haven't quit when they maybe wanted to quit when I annoy them, because they know they're getting a free lunch on Thursday. You know, that's not a bad idea. What other incentives have you guys seen out there that's affordable, or other ideas? A free lunch is a good one. Paying for a gym membership or something is a good one, I guess. Although I never understood guys like that work that hard still need to go to the gym. That's not something I particularly understand. But what else is out there?
Muscle memory. Repetitive motions do nothing. You're not going to build traps by lifting pavers all day, Sam. I'm going to jump in again. So for guys in the construction trade, landscape trade, if you got a good dude a good guy or girl you really want to keep, Carhartt boots are $200. Pair of pants, $80 a piece. Company shirts that are breathable, 100% cotton. It'll run you a few $100 to have them. Little things like that. Have water in the truck. I know that adds up. You can have guys get involved. And again, that's how you build culture in the company, where if you start giving these things, you might have guys go, hey, boss, you know what? Never mind. I got the water this week. I'll take care of the ice. Well, I'm going to grab Pete. You create a culture around doing stuff like this, where eventually when you develop foremen, they help take care of the people because it makes their life easier. So little things go a long way. It doesn't have to be 401k, SEP IRAs, things like that. I'll let Bedell and Nicole or somebody jump in now. I'm talking too much.
Well, Nicole, you don't have, to Josh's point there, passing it over to you, you don't have employees, you subcontract. How do you incentivize subcontractors to do better work?
I think that an example of this week where I had somebody walk off on the job, it was, let's get this done by the end of the day. And if we can, I'm going to give you an extra 20, 30 bucks. Mine is, I'm right there with them. I'm shoveling the thousands of pounds for them. So if they can't, and again, it's the heat, it's 110 here sometimes. They're going to have to understand that as they come in, and it's like, let's make it through here. I'm pushing them, but again, they have the opportunity to walk off or pass out, and they have before. And I think mine is a monetary thing. So it's 20, 30 bucks. I was looking here too, I don't pay minimum wage to go and pull weeds. And I certainly don't pay minimum wage to go shovel or, dump mulch that's being shoveled. It's $15, $20 an hour. These guys can make $800 a week. They're a subcontractor. They can write off their gasoline. I don't think that people understand that, I'm not going and paying $7 and whatever minimum wages at this point, and I'm not taking advantage of them either. I'm right there with them doing the same work. So, money, give it to them if you're going to make it through that job.
I got a question for Nicole real quick. So I think we subcontract differently. Do you, and the way you do it, do you offer like spiffs or bonuses to the subcontractor if they get done under the allotted hours for the job, or is it just like you get what you bid on? How does it work for you, like as far as like incentives?
Again, if like earlier this week, it was let's get through the job. I think that I just saw a comment by somebody that's hackling everybody in here because that's what they seem to be wanting to do. I'm right there with them. If they can outwork me, I seriously doubt that that's going to be the case. I'll give them 50 bucks. And it's not that they're taking orders from me. It's you're running a wheelbarrow, you're dumping mulch, and I'm spreading it on my hands and knees. So nobody that works for me will ever say that I'm sitting there giving them orders because I can't. Can you run the wheelbarrow? Let's go to it. Here's where you're going to dump, and that's it. And I'm right there spreading every bit of that mulch. Just so you know, whoever you are.
Well, he's gone. There are terms of use. And Nicole, there's a reason why you're on our UAG program and you're here a guest panelist, and other people are out there just trolling.
Right.
Because you're the one actually doing the work. But I think that paying, like the incentive idea is fantastic when it comes to your ideas. I'll give you an extra 20 bucks or an extra 50 bucks or something like that. I think that's good. I want to also get down to the pay, like what we pay, and are we paying minimum wage or not, and why. But before we circle back to that question, Bedell, I think you were going to say something about incentives. What incentives, if any, have you offered in your 100 years doing this?
Well, back especially when we were a bigger company, it was kind of making it like a family affair, if you will, even though we weren't all family. But if there's a hockey game we were all going to watch on television, like maybe the Red Wings were in the playoffs or something, whether it be at my place or one of the employees' places, we'd all go over there after work, and somebody would bring pizza, and somebody bring the 24-pack of beer, or somebody bring a 2-liter of Coke, and or Sprite or Pepsi or whatever it was, and we just hang out and watch the game. And then I kind of upped the ante, and I got season tickets for the OHL Plymouth Whalers before they moved to Flint, and those were a hit. If I could go to the game, I'd hand the tickets off, or it'd kind of be like whoever did real good that week, be like, hey, you want to go to Saturday night's game? And we go get dinner beforehand and just hang out. And it kind of took the edge off of all the work we were trying to get done. And, it gave you there's kind of some fun things to look forward to. Another thing that we've touched on is being able to pick up lunches. If you've got all hands on deck on a big job, letting everybody know, like, hey, don't worry about lunch. Like, I got pizza showing up, there's a case of water in the trailer, in the cooler. And that way they don't have to worry about like the little things, or back when I used to manage different crews when we were bigger, swing through the gas station and grab a bunch of Gatorades. So when you're going to check on the guys doing a mulch job, you're not just showing up and going, well, you doing over there? And why isn't that done? Or like, you got to do it thicker over there. You give them the Gatorades and you tell them they're doing a great job. And then, by the way, maybe bring a wheelbarrow, touch up the tree over there. And that way it's how it's presented. And then, maybe it's not like such a bad guy all the time. It's, hey, Mike's a good guy. He brings some Gatorades. He bought us pizza. Like, I went to a Whalers game the other weekend, and it was awesome. They won, and he bought dinner. And so I've also just kind of tried to steer it towards, like, what do the guys really want to do, or gals. That's what's worked best for me over the years is just kind of, having it feel more like a family environment at work rather than just like a classroom environment where we all got assigned to the class and we all just got to sit here for the rest of the semester and try and get along, if that makes sense. What about you, Scott?
Scott gives free haircuts.
Yeah, I don't get mine though. So, I mean, believe me. I mean, we've done the same thing, Mike. I mean, I always have water. I buy water every week for my guys. They have Gatorade. I bring in Gatorade when it gets hotter. I buy lunch once a week. They need boots. I go out and buy them boots. I make sure they have their pants. We have a uniform set we have a certain pair of pants we got to wear, certain shirts. We provide the shirts. If they need hats, we provide them with hats, coats, jackets. We want our name on anything that they're wearing, and we want them to look professional. And that's one of the greatest incentives we give them. And, and if they need, a little bit of gas, I've done that too before. If they need gas and to get back and forth till payday, I'll put gas in their car. I'm not afraid to do that to help them out any way we can, because like Mike said, you want them to feel like family. And they're out there doing it for you. And if they're feeling like it's just a dead end job, they're not going to want to continue to stay here. They're going to be like, well, I can go somewhere else for the same amount I'm getting paid. But, I don't pay my employees minimum wage. And that's definitely not something that I've done that in the past. And you go through a lot of people quick. You want to pay them for the quality that you want to get back out of it. So, given incentives like the water, the food, anything that you can provide. We've given them gas cards. We've taken them out to eat. We've even taken them to games. We have a company picnic we used to have once a year. We had get-togethers. When I first bought my land, I used to let the guys jump in one of the trucks and just four-wheel through the muddy field that we had, and they just have a blast for hours upon hours once a week of just destroying the truck and getting as dirty as they could. And they'd come out just soaked in mud and just enjoy the rest of the day because they just had the worst, hardest week. And then here they are just having so much fun that, they could just be like, all right, let's go do something else. We can make it through. We did it the best we could this week, and you got to tell them that they're always doing the best job. I always tell my guys, no matter what, you guys are doing the best job. Here's what we can work on next time, but let's keep going. So definitely lunch is a plus, and, going and getting them drinks and providing all that stuff helps out a lot, so that's one of the good things that you can do for any employee you have. So that's what we do. I don't know. What else kind of things, Nicole, do you think would be great?
Well, again, I'm kind of going, okay, let's just give you some extra money. I wanted to touch base on the fact that at least here in Oklahoma, there's kind of a downtime for the lawn care industry where I'm still doing hardscaping and mulching and clearing, beds and stuff like that. That I have such a good relationship with a lot of these lawn guys that they're willing to they want them back, obviously come March or whatever, that they're giving me their names of their employees to go ahead and subcontract for me, as long as I'm not giving them a little bit more money. No, I'm just teasing, but you know what I'm saying? So I'm supporting them. They're supporting me. I'm able to use their guys, and then they can retain them at the end of this, at the beginning of the season come, March. So that's been helpful to me. I don't think I can give any more incentive other than let's finish this job. I think I pay well. And again, it's they should be proud of what they do at the end of the day. And if they can't be, that's their own problem. It's not mine. So they should be able to obviously want to provide for their family as well. So some of them don't.
Yeah, Mike, what's your take on the whole pay thing? You know what I mean? I think, Abigail and Jacqueline just put in a fantastic comment. We've always heard people say minimum wage worker will do minimum wage work and then above, well, there it is on screen. I think average, above average, pay will do above average work. Has that been your experience over the years? Have you found the difference between paying minimum wage versus paying a premium for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's spot on. And I'll say the only thing I'd really have to add to that is that, last year it was like the race to the top just to get people to show up. I mean, talk of minimum wage or the potential of in the U.S. here, a $15 an hour minimum wage. I mean, I was offering $25 an hour at one point last year, just trying to get somebody to come in to help us knock out some projects. And we had people, agree to show up and then not show up for $25 an hour. So, yeah, I agree with that. In theory, you probably will get more the more you're offering, but it's still nothing is guaranteed in the realm of employees. But all you can do on our end as the employer is try and offer, as best that we can for the situation. And at the end of the day, it should be pretty easy to offer if it's all budgeted for and you're really essentially having your client pay for those people to be there. It's not really coming out of your pocket. It's just part of the cost of doing the job, right? So that's been my experience is over the year. That price of just what you have to pay to get people to show up has certainly gone up. But if you're paying on the lower end or you kind of got to look at yourself in the mirror there if you're having some issues with staff or getting people to show up, because at the end of the day, there's always somebody else that's willing to pay more, I think.
It ceases to amaze me in this industry how people or entrepreneurs will look to spend all kinds of money on a hat, you know what I mean, or boots or equipment, but don't think that their employees are just as valuable an asset that their equipment is, or that their fancy hat is. It's I think people forget that in this industry, it's your people, even more sometimes than your equipment, right? You can buy a cheaper piece of equipment that can still, put a pretty good edge on it, but you're not, the person using it is going to really make it, great or not. But I think I want to go back to Abigail and Jacqueline at JAR. They asked a question. I think it was about the. Now I lost it. They had a really good question. Sorry, ladies. I will get back to that question. But do we want to? Speaking of them, students. They're just graduating university. I'm wondering, does it make sense to the mentor comment that was made here as well? How many of you have considered, instead of hiring, looking like Craigslist or whatever, going and looking for people that are in the landscape, program at a college or horticulture or something, and say, look, you're about to graduate. Why don't I mentor you? Come on board, and you already know they're interested in the industry, but they've got some education behind them.
Yeah, I actually was able to do that with where I attained my degrees from. And I fortunately didn't have amazing results with it, but I think it was really the fact that the people that make it all the way through that program and find they really enjoy it are people just like me who are ambitious and want to actually have their own business. And so that kind of ended up doing that in And then unfortunately they ended the program a couple of years ago. So that kind of also put an end to it. But I could see where that, at least on paper looks like a really good idea, because you're getting the people that have some of that background knowledge, and in theory have the ability to kind of be star players on your team. It's just getting it to pan out. And I think that's, like any employee, it's unfortunately very situational, and you just got to kind of roll the dice and see how it shows up. But there's certainly a lot of merit to exploring that. If that's something you've got some type of, high school or college trade oriented program that's green industry related, it doesn't hurt to darken their door and, or in the days of no contact now, send an email message and try and just see if there's some possibility to work together. Even if it says like an apprenticeship type program, or, if you have a good enough relationship with the college professors, and maybe one of the credits is like a field study, perhaps that's working for you, and they get their college credit and they get paid, if that's a possibility. So yeah, I think that's a great idea from a couple really smart gals. So
if there's how many of you hire students just for the summer, like specifically students, like even high school students? I think, Nicole, you do, don't you? What's your success with that?
I do. I actually was approached by somebody within the week that he's friends with the football coach here in town. And, I think it's illegal to do 2-a-days now, in the heat of the summer. And so what he was going to do is go ahead and pass his name on to the football players and the coach and just say, listen, is this something that you would want them to do, to where I'm able to go ahead and we're going to, obviously be shoveling, wheelbarrowing. And so that second day practice would be with me, which is so weird because,
It's awesome.
It's crazy. But I was also looking here, they had said something when I think a lot of times with me being a landscaper, if you're hiring somebody that has that education, that it's intimidating a little bit to me, to where I don't always know every plant and I don't know every weed, but what a great add-on service for the lawn guys to be able to go in and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and offer the weeding and or the chemical guy or whatever that has that knowledge that you may or may not have. I mean, what a great add-on service, to where you could go ahead and implement that into either trying to get some landscaping done. Because I don't know how many times that I have been asked to do, designs and stuff for the lawn guys, because they don't know where those plants should go. But to be able to utilize, at least here it'd be master gardener or something like that. What a great, asset to your company to be able to, kind of veer off in that direction if that's what you want to do. Because I don't think that any master gardener is going to want to go and use a weed eater and line beds and throw mulch. That's not what they want to do. That's not why they're in that industry. So somehow if you could break off and have that like a little piece of your business, and then also come in every year and kind of, replenish those people. I don't know. It's just an idea of mine.
Yeah. Josh, have you, there's one of the questions where a couple of people actually were talking in the chat about hiring somebody, but on a either probationary period, which is common for most jobs, or giving somebody a trial. Is this the kind of business that, maybe we should be saying, hey, come on, 1 week. If you can cut it after a week, I'll pay you.
No. When you get to a point, if you hire and it costs you money, every time you fire or someone quits, it costs you money. There are loopholes in certain areas where you, if you 1099 a person and take them on per se as like a subcontractor, you can kind of experiment, give them a higher wage for that, and then if they work out. But to like physically hire someone and go through the onboarding process and give them a trial, no, I don't do that. I mean, you can give them cash and try that, but to put them on your books, it ends up costing you in the long run.
Yeah. The speaking of costs, but maybe as a segue from last week's session, one of the Instagram questions that came to us on our those following us on our Instagram channel that heard about this session tonight, somebody asked, should you save up a salary prior to hiring an employee or just budget it into the year's expenses? So I guess what they're trying to say is, look, if I know I want to bring somebody on, I should make sure that I put that money aside, like we talked about in the past weeks about, having money aside so you don't have to go and borrow money for that employee. Or do you know that, okay, my budget is, I got $100 worth of $100 of expenses, and so much of that is going to be employees, and see if you can make that work. How many of you budget in advance and save versus putting it into knowing what's going to be coming in your revenue?
I think budgeting and saving on that are two different completely ways. Like we talked last week, you're going to budget costs that are built into your overhead and your billable hours. I don't personally see anything wrong for a solo guy saving up salary, but at the same time, to save up 20 to 35 grand, I feel like you can do a lot more damage moving that money around than saving it. You guys got to remember, if your systems are in place, subcontractor or employee, the $20 an hour you're paying out should be generating you $60 to $80 to $90 an hour. So it's not costing you anything to bring this guy on. So even if you saved up no money, no capital, it's nice to have the reserves back there. But you're going to have all your hidden costs that you don't see, your indirect costs to hiring, built into what you charge that hourly labor rate. So you definitely budget for it, and that comes with time. I think one of the important things you can do when you start out is document how long it takes you. Now, no one's ever going to be as fast as you as the owner getting jobs done. You're working to make the money and get it done and have a happy customer. But jot down how long it takes you to plant a tree or pull a weed or cut a lawn, and incorporate that into the next year and say, okay, I spent 600 hours mowing lawns. What did I make? What did it cost me? Okay, yeah, maybe I can afford to pay someone $17 an hour to cut 20 of those lawns so I can go pull weeds and make a ton of money on that GP. So
that's interesting. Mike, what's the calculus, or any one of you actually, what's the calculus that you do? Because if you think about it, at a certain point, you can say, okay, if I bring somebody on to do this, that'll leave me more time to do that. And maybe I can make more money doing that, whether it's sales to get more things in. You know what I mean? Like at some point you take a little bit of a risk and say, I'm going to pay this because I think I can do that. Have you, what's the math that you do on something like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. If you're delegating, you're freeing up an opportunity to go make money elsewhere, right? But at the end of the day, if you're hiring someone, part of what's really should be a defining characteristic of them staying at your organization is that they can produce enough to more than pay for what it costs them to be there. And so, in turn, if you're selling work and you're expecting that you're not going to be doing it, people are going to do it, then it's part of budgeting and knowing what their costs, the costs of having them there are going to be specific to that job. That way, the amount that you're billing that client covers those costs and gives that employee the opportunity to be profitable, right? Because sometimes the missing link is, like Josh was touching on, we expect that employees might be able to do it as good or as fast as we were, and maybe they will. Heck, in a perfect world, because you're delegating, it's to someone that can do it better than you, and that's the ideal situation. So in theory, maybe they can, but in practice, probably not so much. And that's sometimes I've heard stories where that's the point of contention, is that they don't realize that, if I'm going to go do this, it's going to go make me money, and I'm delegating off to the employee. Like Josh said, they're not going to be able to do it as fast. And so the amount that you're charging the client may have to reflect that, but it's creating a win-win-win situation for everyone. You win because you're able to go out and grow your business or make a move that allows you to put your life or business or whatever it is in a better situation. The employee wins because they were able to do the job in an adequate amount of time, and no one got mad at them, and they feel rewarded. And then the client wins because they got the work that they needed done successfully and to their satisfaction and yours. So that's kind of the calculus on it on a big overhead level, but it's whether you're looking to grow or just to bring someone on. Yeah, you need to, it's hard to have a cushion, but at the end of the day, I think for them to really be a good fit for your company, all personalities aside, it's can they generate more than it costs you for them to be there, or really your clients for them to be there.
Yeah, I think too many people make that mistake of just hiring because they think they need somebody, as opposed to understanding what's the impact on their bottom line. Danny actually asked something that, just to follow up on the earlier question about the trial, Josh. I know in a lot of industries, mine included, before we hire somebody, sometimes we'll give them a test. Like we hired a creative person not that long ago, 2 creative people, and we gave them a test to say, give us a design of a landing page. Here is a little bit of data, and see what they came back with. So I think his question was, do any of you hand them a trimmer on day one before leaving the shop per se, and see if they even had experience like that, just to test them out, or maybe to give them a sense, look, this is what it's going to take. You're on mute, Josh.
Sorry, a little slow today. So I'm beating a dead horse here with systems. So when a new hire comes in, there's systems for everything. How you, on the lawn aspect, how you mow, how you weed whip, how you spray for weeds. So that person's taken out and they're shown how we want it done. And I think that's what's going to help a lot of people, or a lot of business owners, is if you have those systems in place for every single thing. I know it's nitpicking, but there shouldn't be a question as far as if a guy can do it on the first day, whether or not he can do it or do it his own way. He needs to do it the way that you implement it and how you have it written up. That's your system. That's how you make the money, and that's how you write up to the contract with the customer. So it's not so much like throwing a guy out there and say, hey, go fish and see what you bring back. This is how you're going to do it. And that's not to sound mean, but it's what it is. Again, we're making money. So.
Why don't somebody answers Tino's question here. What advice would y'all give the new solo guy who's maxed out on jobs he can do solo and needs to hire a guy? Should they wait to do it in the beginning of the season so that they can rustle up enough work? Wow, Josh has an opinion there. I'm shocked. What's up? But wicked smart. Yes, definitely. But why don't we go with Scott first?
I would say, I was that guy at one point where I was solo and I did get maxed out quickly. You got to make sure that you're budgeted it into what you're making. But also, you want to make sure that you have enough work and that a constant work. It's kind of hard to say if you're that solo guy, and you got tons of work, that work's going to be there at all times. So, I take my time and make sure it's all budgeted in. What do you got, Mike?
Well, I think the biggest thing would be, looking at your individual goals and where you want to go. If you're maxed out, do you want to get any bigger, or at that point, is it about maybe just getting top dollar per hour for what you're doing, and dissolving the bottom and growing the top? That's also an option too, and some people have kind of had to go that route. with, as we've touched on, the various reasons for labor shortages over the past years, or especially this last year. And then, you see, the stimulus package gets signed today. And while it's great for a lot of people, it probably means it's going to be a lot like last summer in terms of incentives to stay home for some of our labor pool, right? So I think that at the end of the day, you got to look at where do you want to really go. I think I said it on another one of these. You got to know where you're at and know where you're going, right? And so if you're trying to get bigger, then yeah, that's kind of one of your only options is now you got to bring somebody on and try and go that route. But you got to make sure that's something that at the end of the day you really want to do, and don't let other people, define success for you. If it's not something that you want to do, or you feel comfortable where you're at, or you don't want to take on employees for whatever reason, those are all options. I think that in this industry, we get the shiny object syndrome. It's like cool to tell people how many clients you have, or how many trucks you got, or how big you are, and like, who cares? It's how much money you're making. How are you providing your family? We've talked about budgets. Is there a line item in the budget for your happiness? And so, at the end of the day, those are maybe all the things you really want to weigh in. And then if you want to get bigger, or your goals say you got to do more work, then yeah, you got to get out there and start finding someone. And is it full-time? Is it part-time? Once again, it just goes back to what's the best fit for you. And then, what are your available choices? Hire employees can be a lot like sports teams drafting players, right? There's this big pool, but they only get them at certain times, and not every draft pick pans out. So you just got to kind of know what you're getting into, and if that's something you want to do, then there's all sorts of people here. A lot of us at EMB have gone through that as UAG members and otherwise. So we're all along for that journey, and feel free to keep asking questions on it, and we'll all get there together, I think.
How much effort do you guys put into training programs? There's been some comments in the comment section regarding training, and that how important that is. If you want people to last, you got to divide it. You got to devise a training program. Is it trial by fire for most people in this industry?
I would say no. I mean, you definitely got to train them. I mean, like Danny was saying, Lanier Lawn Care said that, you expect them to, if they say they got experience, that they know what they're doing right away. And going back to what Josh said earlier, you got to train them. You got to know exactly how you want them to do it. If you don't tell them how you want them to do it, they can do it whatever way they want. I mean, I've had people come in and say, yeah, I got 5-6 years experience, but when you put them out there, they're taking their time, they're going the wrong way, or they're not, even mowing a lawn. I mean, everybody knows how to mow a lawn. 90% of the world knows how to mow a lawn, but when you get them out there, do they know how to mow it your way that you want it done? Striped out the right way, at the right height that you want it. Not everybody knows what way you want it. And unless you train them to what you want it done, it could take 5-6 guys to get to that right person, that you want that way. But if you don't start training right off the bat and showing them what you want from the first minute you get them on that first lawn, they're not going to continue to do it the same way you want it. And, you got to keep reinforcing it. We can throw training out there nonstop, and we do that as much as we can. I mean, we do our weekly meetings. We throw a little bit of training in on something, and then I'm still going out to my guys and showing, hey, this is how I want it done, and if I see something that even the minute little thing might be off, and I'll be like, hey, let me show you this again, how I want it done. And, eventually it'll kick into them to where that's the way you want it, and they will keep continually to do it. There is them guys that get out there and they know exactly right what you want, and they pick it up like that in a snap. But then there's guys that take forever, and you got to keep working on them, and just tell them they're doing a good job, but hey, can you try this way for me for once? And they'll do it for you eventually, and they will get it the way you want it. So, I mean, you got to have that training from the start.
Well, guys, that was incredible information and tips, as always. Really grateful to all of you, as I'm sure those that are following us here are, for the pro tips on hiring, managing, and in some cases, moving people out. And for those of you following us and commenting, as always, we too appreciate you guys joining us on Thursday nights. Quick reminder, this series is over, this 4-part series on spring into 2021, but the pro networking is not. Every second Thursday, there's going to be another pro networking session going live, same bat time, same bat channel, as the saying goes. And you'll be able to follow us live on YouTube if that's your preference. But check out this replays that you're going to be able to find out on the Echo Means Business site or the mobile app. So be sure to subscribe to get the alerts on Echo Means Business and or download the app. It's the fastest way probably for most people. So thanks to our panel. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.